So the trick with all of this and with what you see people do with their books and what's actually happening with successful book campaigns behind the scenes is that what it often looks like is the book is a revenue source. So I don't know if any of you thought of this when you signed up. You may have been educated by me in my funnel, but a lot of people think of the book as a source of revenue. So was anybody thinking about this? I'm going to make money from my book. So you can make a lot of money from your book, but the way the publishing industry has changed, especially over the last 10 years or so, the money does not come at the bottom of the funnel from book sales. The book, we actually invert that, and the book is at the top. The book is how you get awareness, and the book is how you get leads. So the key to revenue, which is how we fund our movement, which is how we go on our Viking River cruise or beach vacation with our family or African safari, the way we do that is by using the book to build awareness and get leads. When we get those leads, we convert them into clients. That's in our sales conversion, the golden step there. Then we get people into our front end program, which is what's the first thing they're going to buy. Usually, in most cases, it's doing your book with you, with your coaches, in a group program, one-on-one. That all can be sorted out as long as you're doing it one way so you can continually make it better and better. And then the way that we extend that revenue source is by selling them something else, a back-end program, which is usually implementation of the book over a longer period of time. So that's where the money comes out. And you can see we start off on this gray bubble with lots and lots of people hearing about your book. The lead magnet, in many cases, will be people getting your book, often for free. Even if you make money on your, let's just say you make $5 on a book sale, we want to take that $5 and pour it right back into awareness. So we're not keeping any of that money, even if we get any from the book. We don't care about that. We want to get those leads. Those are people who have the problem that your book solves, and they're raising their hand saying, hey, I've got this problem. I'm bleeding. I'm red. I'm in pain. Will you help me solve the problem? That's when you take them through, and you can see how there's fewer and fewer each time. Not everybody who hears about you will get your lead magnet or will get onto your list. Not everybody who gets on your list will go into a sales conversion process. And not everybody who goes into a sales conversion process will become a client. So we know that number is going to get funneled down to fewer and fewer people. And some of those actual numbers, we'll dig into this a little more in the details tomorrow, but some of those actual numbers that we see are here. So about 1% of people who hear about you and your book are going to raise their hand and say they have the problem. Some of those 99% are like your college roommate. Like your college roommate probably doesn't have the problem that your book solves, but they might get the book, hear about you, they're aware of it. That's awesome. But we're only looking for a tiny percentage of people who hear about it to be like, oh, I've got that problem. And then in this next step, the sales conversion step, about 10% of those people who have the problem will want to learn more about whether or not you're the person to solve it. Most of them will read your book, think about it, and they'll either decide, I don't really want to solve this problem. I've got other problems that are higher priority. Or, oh, I want to solve this problem, but this person is not the right person for me. I'm going to go find my person. Awesome. Cool. You don't have to be the solution to everybody's problems. But about 10% of those will go into your sales process. And of that 10%, about 25% of those will become your client. So if 4 people are thinking, I have this problem, I'd like to solve it, I think Connie is my person to help me solve it, I want to find out more, that's the sales conversion. One of those 4 people will end up buying from you and asking for your help. I'll take your question 1 second, Nancy. Of those 4 people, 2 will decide you're not for them or it's not for them. So either they don't want the result anymore or they don't want it from you. 2 will want it from you, and there'll be some logistical reason why one of those 2 people can't do it. They might say it's money, it's probably not. They might say it's time, it's probably not. They might say they can't come to Washington, D.C. that weekend. But there'll be some reason why one of those two won't work out. And 1 in 4 pretty consistently is what we find. Then of that 1 in 4 that takes your front end, half of those, about 50%, will want your back end. And same reason to not buy the back end. They either don't want to implement your plan for whatever their reasons are, or they don't want to implement it with you, and about half of them will. This is a sane business. Doing 55,000 things is not sane. So trying to do everything with every possible lead magnet in every possible social media channel and selling every possible product because you don't want to miss anyone is how you miss people. So what you'll notice about the front end is it's exactly like the ideal reader. Your brain wants to go big, right? You're like, but this message can help everyone. Let me help everyone with everything. By being really narrow about who you can help, you can actually help more people. It's totally like paradoxical, but having one program gets a lot more clients than 10 programs. A lot of people will teach, like, make sure you have something cheap and something expensive and something in the middle and something here and something there and something in Bali and something online. You cannot do it successfully. Those people just burn out. And if you actually look at who's selling that and teaching that, it's not how they run their business. Most successful people in this space have one, it's sometimes called a flagship program or a signature program. Maybe there's like a random November where you decide you want to do a retreat where you sell something else, but that's not like your main business. That's sort of, Brooke and I did this once a couple years ago. Brooke and I decided we wanted to go to Bora Bora, and we're like, we should just get that paid for. So we did a 2-day event in Miami that just basically paid for our trip. So every once in a while, just for fun, you can go do something else, but it's after you hit your revenue goals. It's a reward. It's not your main focus of your time and energy. The first year, and you'll see this on Friday, we'll go through it more. The first year building this, especially if you have to pivot and you have existing contracts or jobs or other things you have to clean up, the first year doing this, it's very hard to do it in less than 40 hours a week. By year 2 or 3, you should be able to get this down to 20 hours a week, especially if you're happy with what people call a lifestyle business. But anywhere in that $400,000 a year to $1 million a year range, this can easily be executed in 20 hours a week. But you have to do everything yourself first. So you can, have you ever heard the phrase like standard operating procedures? You want to know how to do everything in this business so you can write up a description, go hire people, train them to do almost all of it except the parts you love the most. So you go, first you have to do it yourself, write up the procedures, then you know who to hire. Then you can hire someone, train them, replace yourself, get yourself out of that job. And if that person left, you'd be able to hire someone else. Setting all that up takes 1 to 2 years. And then you can get yourself out of whatever you want to get yourself out of. And what I recommend is really identifying the stuff you love. For me, it's those Tuesday calls. Have you noticed I'm sort of on fire on those Tuesday calls? Like, that's my favorite thing, or these events and my Tuesday calls. Almost everything else. Like, even in this castle, the stage used to be where Carmi's sitting. There was no stage. It was a table. It was a table with a tablecloth. Oh, you were here for that event. Yeah, all those events. That was like the first year. And there was no one else in the room. It was like me and Nora, and I think there were, 8 or 10 people? It was smaller than this. So there were 8 or 10 people. I was standing in front of a table. There was no videography. There was no streaming. Hi, Beta. There was it was much smaller, and I did everything myself. We did have music on the breaks. You know how? On my computer, I would go to Spotify and press play. Like, that's how we had music. So, and you know how we got the snacks is I would just put them out on the table on my way downstairs in the morning. So you can get more and more and more off your plate once you know how to do it. Nancy, did you still have your question?
You might answer it later. I don't want to derail anything. I'm getting to the point now on my Facebook page, life coach page, where people are starting to say, I want to know about your services. I want to know what you're doing. I want to know, I need some help. But I can't get them beyond that. Like, I'm responding immediately. I'm saying, you can get a hold of me this way. Let's talk. I'm not giving them prices up front or anything.
Yep.
And that's it.
So the trick with this, and we will talk about this more tomorrow, but the trick with this is you have to make sure I call this like being diagnostic, that you're identifying the problem you solve and the dream come true. And then if they say, this sounds amazing, I want to learn more, you have a way, that golden path. Yeah, fix it if you can. Good instinct. You have a way to get them into your funnel. If somebody says, I'm interested and doesn't sign up for a sales call, do you know what that means? I'm not really interested. But I like you, and I think you're neat. Like I always say, the worst testimonial you can ever get is Angela is awesome. Like, that's, well, not Angela, it would be insert your name there. But like Nancy is awesome means no thank you. And so when people are not taking action to solve the problem, it means they either don't want to solve the problem or they don't want to solve it with you. That's all it means. And so the prize never chases. You're not going to go run around saying, pretty please get on a call. How about if I call you? You're not going to hire, I mean, you could, but don't. You're not going to hire like cold call people. Has anyone gotten those cold calls from Balboa? They're like, oh my God, that's like, they're like crazy. They'll call you 1,000 times. If you ever get signed up on the Balboa list, which is Hay House, it's not really Hay House, but it's Hay House's self-publishing arm, but they're not really. It's a company called Author Solutions, and it's really just like a boiler room. It's like a really quick turnover, high volume sales, and they will call you 1,000 times until you buy. Once you buy, they'll pretty much ignore you. So they're just really good at getting set. We don't want to like chase people to solve their problem. We want them to come to us. So we'll go into it more tomorrow in the tactics, but it's getting really good at your flap copy, saying that 1,000 ways. Problem, dream come true, call to action. Let's get on the call and see if I can help you.
I also get a lot of what does a life coach do? And so I finally had my assistant just I typed it and then she made it pretty, and then I pinned it,
Yeah, so this is what I would say. Even people who love the idea of life coaching, they don't want a life coach. People do not spend money on life coaching. They don't spend money on therapy. They don't spend money on retreats. They spend money on solving problems. So when you say like, I do life coaching, or here's a description of life coaching, I bet, haven't seen what you wrote up, but I bet it's super generic. It's like all the things life coaching can do. So I do everything for everyone. I'll make your life better. You'll be happier. Life coaches are forward facing and they'll help you set your goals and plan action stuff. People don't want that. Even if they say they want it, they'll be like, oh, it sounds awesome. I'm going to get a life coach someday. What they really mean is no thank you. But what they spend money on is solving problems that are more painful to keep than to get rid of. So this funnel needs to get filled. We have to put in more people at the top to get those people who are begging for your help. To get those people here, we have to put in a lot of people at the top of the funnel. A lot more. So the best way that I find to use a book to get those leads is to build awareness and then to drive people to a specific event with 2 keywords in marketing: urgency and scarcity. Urgency means there has to be a very clear, urgent reason to take action now. Because we could all want, I don't know, a Viking cruise to Europe. And they're always available, and you can see the ads running on Downton Abbey, if you're like me, watching Downton Abbey. Like, they're always running. You can always do one. Why now? So why do people pick when they're going to take a vacation? What are some reasons that you've taken vacations?
Holiday time.
Yep. So like Spring break or Christmas. This is when we take vacations. That's a big one. What else? Okay, I'm going to use my tax return. Otherwise, I'm going to get used on something. What else?
Rest and relaxation.
But you can rest and relax anytime. So why did you pick that? Think of your last vacation. Why did you pick that time? Did you say graduation? This is exactly what I was looking for. Graduation, birthdays, big events, right? That's the urgency. How many times do you turn 50? Hopefully, once. 29 I've turned several times, but like you have one 50th birthday. You want to do something on your 50th birthday. Do you want to like do it at a random Tuesday? Like I want to rest and relax all the time, but I want to do something awesome for my 50th. Let's take a Viking River cruise. Do you see what I'm saying? So we need to build that urgency. Why take action on this problem now? And then the second thing is scarcity. So one of the things, if you look at that start and emerge plans that I gave you, what you'll notice is I want you to build this business with very few clients. There are multiple reasons for this. Did you see how many clients there were in the start plan? 4 a month, 1 a week. 1 client a week. Can you imagine if you spent 20 hours a week, how many people here think if you spent 20 hours in 1 week trying to get a client, who couldn't get a client? Does anybody feel like if you had 20 focused hours, you couldn't find 1 client? It's pretty fucking easy to find 1 client. Most of you are not trying to find 1 client. Instead, you're trying to find how many? Say your numbers. 100. I want 100 clients. It's always 100. I want 100 clients. You don't want 100 clients. You want 1 client. You only ever want 1 client. You might want another client tomorrow. But right now, you only have space for 1. In this moment, you have space for 1. In the next moment, you might have space for another one. But just like with the ideal reader, I want you to think small. Just like with having 1 front-end program, I want you to think small. When it comes to clients, I want you to think small. 1 client a week. You know what the Emerge program has? 2 clients a week. That's it. 1 or 2 clients a week, and you can have a $400,000 to $1 million business. Trying to get 100 clients at a time, or who has this goal? As many as possible. Yes. How many people have gotten to $500,000 on as many as possible? None that I know of. 1 a week, I can literally rattle off 30 names right now. Their book covers are on the wall who have built a $500,000 business trying to get 1 client a week. Number of people I could rattle off that want as many clients as possible that have gotten to $500,000? None. None people. Think smaller, much, much, much smaller. It will make your life easier. It will make your family love you more. It will make you love your life more. And not only that, you will help more people by trying to reach fewer. You'll be able to do lots of, in this awareness step, you will be able to, and I'm going to bring this up on a board in a second, but you'll be able to reach thousands of people. So for instance, how many of you watch my master class, my webinar? You like maybe saw an ad and then watched like a webinar? 10,000 people a month watch that webinar. And it helps a lot of people. Like I'm able to reach 10,000 people a month. But in terms of clients, we want 20 clients a month. So, and that's 5 years in at $10 million. So I was at 1 or 2 clients a week the first couple of years. Like we just started growing and expanding that, and there's a lot more people involved. But I can still help with my message tens of thousands of people because I can fund my movement. And like Nancy was saying, like people say what I'm doing is awesome, but they're not signing up for sales calls. So out of those 10,000 people every month who watch the webinar, we get 2,000 applications. So our goal would be 10%. We get closer to 20%. But we'd be happy with 1,000. We get about 2,000 applications. You guys were among those. Of those 2,000 applications of people saying, oh, I have this problem, I'd like to learn more. They're in the red lead magnet step. Between 300 and 350 get a phone call from us. So do you remember that first phone call? It was probably 10 or 15 minutes. Of those 2,000 people, you got picked, and we grade all of the applications when they come in. They're graded on a scale of 1 to 5. We always call 5s. We sometimes call 4s if we haven't had enough sales. If you're graded a 1, 2, or 3, you'll never get a call from us. You get a very nice email that says you're not a fit. So you were already all 4s or 5s, probably 5s. We used to call 4s more. Now we almost never do, unless we have a really bad month. So you had to be rated a 5 to get that call. Of the 350 people who get that call, about 60 of them get offered the opportunity for the hour-long interview that you had. So you were already taken from 10,000 people, it's the gray, to 2,000 people, that's the red, and then 350 people end up in the gold. 60 people get that 1-hour call. And of those 60 people, we will make an offer to about 40 of them, and 20 will say yes. So it's a lot of people to get to the awesome clients that are begging to work with you, that are going to show up and do the work, even though their husband loses his job and their cat, whatever. Who had the cat story? That was Anna. They got 9 cats living in their house. Like, there's a very... So we have to reach a whole lot more people, and consistently. So how many of you, there's usually 1 or 2, but how many of you were on my list for, let's say, 3 or 4 or 5 months before you did an application? Just like on my list, following along. There's usually 1 or 2. Do you know how long you were on?
Oh, 7 years.
Right, so there's usually 1 or 2. Meredith Holly is the same way. So for most of you, I know this statistically, it's about 95%. Within 7 days of watching that, watching the webinar, it was about 7 days until you signed up for the program. Fresh blood is the lifeblood of small business. So you cannot wait for the Stacys. I'm not saying don't have a list, but your list is a holding place for non-buyers. Most of the people on your list, what they're doing is not buying.